Doing good, man. Doing good.
All right. Well, there's a lot of history with you in this league, a seven-time champion and all that. That's pretty impressive. But we're gonna get right into this, man. Start of the league. What was in your thoughts when you started up the league, and what was your main goal when you first got into the league and started to make it progress throughout the season?
Well, I just always wanted to start a league and always wanted to have competitive racing. I've always liked racing, even when I was a child. Loved racing. I had a room with racing banners, and I had a carpet where you can drive your cars on, and I had tracks, and I've always loved racing. But I always had the idea of having an organized race where you can have competition and have people battle and have people progress and really challenge yourself beyond what the computer, or AI could do, which was, kind of at that time, we're talking NASCAR Thunder 2002 and, the old NASCAR games where the AI, yeah, where the AI was only going to do so much, and it just, yeah, it just is what it is. Once you get the hang of it, the AI is not going to be any competition. So, I was always about competition, but then having fun, I've always wanted to do it. So yeah, I just tried to get it out there and try to make it happen.
Yeah. So the first season, I'm guessing, as always, you got to get yourself started. First season, about how many drivers would you say were in the league approximately, and any names that you want to name off about who was there for the first season of the KMR's first couple seasons of it?
Yeah, so it's interesting how it started. First couple seasons because it's not as when you think about it now, it's so organized and it's formal, and it's strategic and it's put together in a certain way. But back in the day, our first couple seasons were kind of like public lobbies. We came together as a public lobby, but it was the same people 90% of the time. You had a lobby with three, four guys that were going to be the same people every time. And it was just one particular time I just said, hey, um, let's points race. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's points race. So, we had a points cap. Whoever got the X amount of points first, wins the championship. And, we the winner would choose the track, and we just kind of laid some ground rules. Obviously, no intentional wrecking or anything like that. But we just laid the ground rules and we went out there and did it. And so drivers like Moose Tracks um, was out there. Gosh, it's been so long ago. You got um, that's the one that sticks to my mind because I remember him helping me with my setup and helping me control the car. So I remember running with him. But that was kind of him and a couple of other people, and that was kind of the start, of the league. And then more and more people would come in as a public lobby and run. And then when we got to a certain amount, let's say 12, 13 people, then we just made the lobby private. And then we just invite the same 12 or 13 people. And we'd run every week, or every other day or whatnot. And then it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, I hear you. So the first couple seasons, obviously, you were just talking about how we just made it private. So the first private thing, about how many races were you doing every night? Was it one race a night? Was it throughout the week? Uh, or was it just a couple of races compiled within one night, like around four to eight race seasons or whatever, and throughout one night until you won the championship, or was it kind of spread out one race this day, run another race another day?
Well, it's actually a little crazy because this was before I got grown. Okay, so I'm still in school. I don't have a job. So it was kind of crazy. It was we'd run because we would have fun. The races wouldn't be incredibly long, so we're talking maybe an average 7% or something like that. So the races aren't that long, and we're just going out there having fun, man. We didn't really keep track. I mean, honestly, we could run about three quarters of a season in one day, because there wasn't really a set schedule. That was before a set schedule. That was before, set points as far as, bonus points and all this stuff. It was before all of that. So obviously there was a points for how much you win, and then the tear off from there. But And we just go out there and run, man. We'd run four, five, six, seven races. The winner would pick the next race, and we just keep running and running and running. We were just having fun. We wasn't keeping track of we weren't keeping track of a schedule or anything like that. It was run, till you got to that points cap. So whatever the points cap was when we would stop and restart the season, and so that made it fun. And the league also was influenced, not a whole lot, but ever so slightly, by what NASCAR did, the actual real life NASCAR. So that was before the chase was the chase the way it is now. That was right as they're starting to transition into this modern kind of chase system with stages and all of that. This is before that. So we're in the days where Jimmy Johnson was the man and Dale Jr. was the most popular driver, and no one touched that, and so and Jeff Gordon was still the man, and now you ran straight up. There were no stages. You were a big boy. You ran straight up. So the league reflect that kind of, where we were kind of just straight up. We didn't have the breaks and set the schedule and anything like that. We ran straight up.
Okay, so yeah, so as you said, 75% of the races and whatnot, that can wear on some people, I'd say. But at the time, you said you were in school, it wasn't really that effective. Nobody really cared. About what point in the league did you start to really kind of, all right, guys, let's see if we can organize this up and make the racing a bit cleaner, a bit more Greek like that. At what point did you say, all right, let's try a couple rules here, let's see how that all goes out, see if that works?
Yeah, so it's probably about it's probably about, I'd say, two or three, kind of 2 or 3 seasons in, maybe 4 seasons in with that. Because what ended up happening was we started getting a consistent core group of guys that was gonna just be there every time we raced. It was gonna be a core group of guys. So at that point, when I realized that, I said, well, let's just make the league official. Let's just make it official. And so I talked to a few guys around. And at this time, this is around the time of yourself fractured. This is getting close to drivers like Lawton and Soccer Dog and uh, missing somebody. Tip Top Moon, Spheric Rope, Surplus Man, Surplus Rope. Yes, Military Life, Go Blue Army, Chamberlain, Ty Williams. Yes, this is when those guys are starting to roll in, and Destroyer is about to come. So we're starting to get more core group of guys. So I just went ahead and made it official because the bigger or the more core group of guys we had, we wanted something that was more official. We wanted something that was a set schedule, set points. And that's when I kind of came up with some rules, because certain things were happening during the race that was kind of like, we needed to get control of that. So everybody was cool with it. So our first official ruled kind of stabilized season of KMR was I'd say about 2 seasons in, because that's when you had some drivers that needed a set day to race. It couldn't be helter skelter where we're just running whenever we feel like. It had to be a set day, set time, set rules. And at that time, I felt was the right time for the league to kind of take the next step.
Yeah, so we're talking about it. Champions are a big part of the league. The first few seasons, I believe yourself won that first championship in the league history. But the first few seasons, talk us through the champions and talk us how those first couple seasons ended up going for the drivers, and maybe how it ended up shaping out. Who was the best driver in that season, or who was really the leaders, like if there's three, four guys maybe controlling the season, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, because of the formality of the league, it changed things. So, you think about it. Let's say, back in before the league became solidified. If I win at, let's say, Talladega, I can control the league basically. I can pick what track we go to, and I can just pick whatever track as long as I'm winning, and a lot of stuff. Well, now you got a set schedule and races that you cannot control. And so now all of a sudden you had to prepare. And then you got the same group of guys coming, and you start to learn different things about them, and then you start to adapt your racing to that. So now this individual, you starting to notice, well, he can't run on the high side, so now you're trying to force him high. Now you're trying to out strategize people because now the races are longer, and it was a lot more of an aspect to it. So it started to get challenging as it went along. I think I won the next two, 3 seasons, at least. But then all of a sudden, drivers started coming in that could match on speed and were quicker in strategizing, like yourself, like Speedy, who came in, won his first championship on his rookie season, and like Destroyer, who won his first championship on his rookie season. And then the one that ran with us, Fractured, that was always back and forth with us. What's this gamer tag? I can't remember it. Ah, yes, 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 yes. That's exactly what it is. Team Trace, who is a two-time champion. Yeah, so yeah, so you're starting to have drivers come in and they're starting to figure this thing out and they're starting to really, really, adapt to it. So then it just make things more challenging. So every season it gets more and more challenging to win, and that's kind of what I was looking for. So it just it made things more competitive and more fun because you had the game plan and you had to do all these things. So yeah, you had several champions to come in, like yourself. You won two to start off, and back and forth there. Team Trace won two. I had already had championships, but I won two in that era. And then you start to have Destroyer come in. Destroyer wins one by wins, not by points. He comes in his rookie season, and we tie at the end of the season. We both had the same amount of points, and so we go to wins, and he had one win more than me, so he ends up winning the championship then. And then Speedy comes in the next time because Destroyer was like, "Hey, yeah, this is a cool lead. Come on, Speedy." Speedy comes in and strategizes the doors off of us, and then he wins his championship. Yes, exactly. So then word of mouth started coming in. You had people like Rat Rod come in. You had Dale Jr. come in. You had Beloved comes in. Yeah, you had you had so many. Chamberlain comes in, and Rival Ant comes in, and he brings Hendrick Motors with him. Hendrick Motors only ran that one season, but Rival Ant stayed with it a little bit longer. And then, one of the good things about this league also is that there are leagues out there that are age restrictive, or they put restrictions on who can come in. And I try not to be that way because I enjoy giving everyone a chance and an opportunity. Even people, somebody might say, hey, well, this dude's a wrecker. Well, yeah, in a public lobby when he's just goofing off, he may be a wrecker. But if he takes it seriously, if he comes in, he may take it seriously. We've had individuals that have come in and done well that had a not so great reputation, and then they make a name for themselves running. And you're like, wait, well, who is this guy? This guy was the one that, yeah, well, he did that then, but he doesn't do it now. So it really helped the league grow and maintain itself then, also allowing people to come in and prove their worth. I definitely had to kick some. I definitely had to kick some people. But overall, having the league open like that creates opportunities for everybody to have fun like I'm having fun.
Yes, sir. So if you had to pick in the first few seasons of the league history, if you had to pick one of the battles, one of the championship battles that you think is your favorite, the one that tops them all, which one would you end up saying that it is?
Okay, are we talking about championships I've won or just championships where I'm in a hunt?
We're talking about just championship battles in general. You know, one that you won and one that happened.
Well, no, it's not one that I won. It's one that I lost. But it was no, but it was an epic showdown. I think this is before the White Hammer. This is Casey Jordan days. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but this guy started to get really, really good and really competitive. And we went back and forth that season. I mean, he'd win a race, I'd win a race. He'd win a race, I'd win a race. And we're going back and forth, back and forth. The points are going back and forth. It was tight most of the season. And then we get to the playoffs to chase. And we get all the way down to the last race. And, honestly, all I had to do in this race was, finish. That's all I had to do. I had to, just had to finish. That was it. It was a track I'm not good at, so I'm just kind of taking my time because I'm not good at it, and this is N14, so the cars are good, tight, but this particular track, I just could not get the hang of it for nothing. So I'm just thinking, all I have to do is finish a race at Kentucky. That's it. That's all I have to do. And Hammer on the other hand is just set sail. He's leading the race by a couple seconds. It's just making a mockery of the field. I don't care. I'm just trying to finish the race. And this is back when developers actually made the games actually cared about realism. So you would get damage and it would damage your engine and you would DNF. And so these two guys I guess they pitted or they went a lap down. I don't know what the situation was, but they're getting ready to pass me on the inside. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Just go ahead. I don't care. Pass me because I don't want anything to happen. And before I could even get that thought out of my mind, I get a display on my screen telling me that I've been fatally damaged and I have to go back to the lobby. And I just remember it's funny now, but I just remember the laugh that the White Hammer had when he saw that happen. He just laughed his heart out because he knew he was a cooked goose as long as I was in the race. And just that happened out of nowhere. But that's got to be my favorite because just the competition throughout that season was really high. It was really, really high. And we were both going back and forth that whole season to get to that point. I wish I could strangle whoever did that, though. Oh, gosh.
Uh, you never want
That
that
was
in
a
your
low
league
moment for
again.
me.
Never.
Ever.
Ever. I can hear you with that one, man. So you start to. I know a lot of this league, it didn't grow on its own. It took with a lot of the other drivers being able to invite people to the league, being able to bring some of their own friends in. A lot of them guys. So without the guys that founded this league, do you think that the guys that were in there for the first couple seasons, do you think it would be where it is today without them first few drivers that decided that, hey, let's run a league?
I have to give a shout out to those guys and I just apologize that I can't remember half the guys because it's been so long,
About
but
a long 5 years.
gosh,
A long
yeah, but
time.
I have to give a shout out. So let me get my shout out list going,
Okay.
guys. All right, so I gotta give a shout out to Moose Tracks. I gotta get a shout out to Tip Top Moon and Game Destroyer, Speedy. Got to give a shout out to Chamberlain. I got to give a shout out to Spheric Rope. I got to give a shout out to Dale Jr. Beloved. I got to give a shout out to you, Fractured, and Team Trace. I got to give a shout out um, to everyone. This is my first shout out list. These are the old guys because I got another shout out list for later on in the segment because I'm pretty sure we'll talk about the transition and the modern day transition. But all of those older guys, man, thank you because yeah, like you said, part of it was them inviting, and spreading the word. And the other part was me having to go and take the time to run in those public lobbies and everything and grind my nerves to keep from spazzing out from getting wrecked and kind of make a name for myself and let people see me actually know how to race and battle and contend for wins. And then when I go and invite them, they can say, well, hey, yeah, I've raced against this dude. He's pretty good. Let me see what he's got going on. And yeah, I think that it would have taken longer if those guys hadn't come in. It would have taken longer for success. So I'm deeply appreciative for their patience, their ideas when it comes to helping develop the league and make it what it is. It wasn't just me sitting down making these rules and everything. It was their input. It was their thoughts and their ideas. And also it was their cooperation, being willing to stick with an idea that may not have been all that great to begin with. But their patience allowed me to see, well, yeah, you know what? Speedy's right. This could use some adjusting. So let me do that this next season and see how it turns out. So I'm appreciative of all those guys, all you guys
Yeah,
that did that.
yeah. So to step away from really the league owner perspective and look into you as a driver. You're a 7-time champion, triple-digit wins. I'm sure we don't know an exact count, but definitely has to be leading the league in wins for as long. You were there for the start, and you've been winning throughout the whole series' history. And it's just something that you can't break. So the first few seasons, man, how many championships did you win? And let's say the first 10 seasons, how many did you win? And recall some of the drivers that you had to beat, some of the battles you had to endure to go and get those championships that you ended up winning.
Yeah, so initially, I'm gonna be honest. Initially, the first several seasons, it was quite easy to win championships. Like I said, the old format, the league. Obviously, if I win the race, I control what race comes next. And I remember going on a seven win streak at Darlington night. I just could not be beaten at Darlington. It's just not to brag. It's just the truth. It couldn't be beaten. And I love the harder the racetrack, it seemed like the better I did. Darlington, Sonoma. What's another hard one? Well, we're not even going to New Hampshire. We're not even going to go into that. But we're not going to. We used to run that, Bristol. Whenever we would run, that wasn't a particular favorite of mine. I'd rather do Martinsville, to be honest. And so winning at Martinsville. But anyway, so it was easy. And then all of a sudden people started rolling in like yourself and Team Trace. And so really battling you guys kind of put me in my place a little bit, because I really started to realize, well, wait a minute, there are people out here that are better than me. Oh, okay, wow. Yeah, so you came in, and the thing about you is you're so adaptive. Like, you adapt quickly. You're one of those people that adapt quickly. And I'm one of those people that adapt, but I adapt slowly. So, I may adapt over a season, you adapt over a race. And I'm like, okay, this dude is obviously made changes from one pit stop to the next, and he's gone. And then it takes me 7 pit stops, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, if I'd have done that, I wouldn't finish 20th. So, you made it difficult for me to beat you. And Team Trace wasn't as adaptive. He wasn't as quick, but he was quick. He was about my level. So, battling us three, normally we would get in there, and we would blow the socks off everybody, and it would just be us three battling for a championship or battling for a race. It was really tough. But if I had to say my toughest competitor coming up to those first few seasons was the White Hammer, without question, because the White Hammer, not only was he adaptive over a long period of time, he was someone that you couldn't rattle. It doesn't matter what you do to him, you cannot rattle him. So he's going through a race, he's having a horrible race or whatever, and then he just gets the caution that he needs, and all of a sudden he lines up third out of a round of pit stops, and he done figured something out. He just figured something out, and all of a sudden you have to fight him for a win, and you're like, well, where has this dude been for the whole race? Or you get down to the end of a championship run, and he's sitting there. You got to fight him some kind of way. It doesn't matter what you do. You can bump him, you can hit him, you can spin him. He's gonna come right back, and he's gonna fight. It reminds me a lot of myself, because I'm kind of like that, but not to that degree. It was tough to, the downfall for a lot of drivers is they have a short range perspective. Their vision is only on the track, only on the race, only on that moment. And so if they get in a wreck, or if they have a bad pit stop or whatever, they feel their whole season is over because of that moment. But people like Hammer have a long distance view. So, okay, he finishes 7th this race. He finishes 4th the next race. He may not even show up to the next race because of, whatever, working or whatever. But he's always got his eyes on the playoffs. He's always got his eyes on the championship. So he was tough. He was about the toughest. We went back and forth a lot. Back and forth talking trash, back and forth wrecking, back and forth winning. It was a lot. He was got to be the toughest.
So we got a clown out in the chat. We got Speedy saying hashtag bring back New Hampshire Cookie. I think you can say no to that. Anyway.
Oh yeah, that's a definite no.
That's a definite
no.
That's right with that. And me as the driver, I can attest. Hammer, I mean, literally his last championship, just to give you guys a perspective, his last championship, the dude had one regular season win. Ran 4th every race, ran 7th every. I mean, the dude was nowhere. As soon as we hit that chase, Hammer turned it on. Whatever. I mean, it happened every single championship he wins. You don't see him in the regular season, and then all of a sudden, there he is. Championship race. You don't know how to prepare for him because you haven't seen him the whole season. He'll get that one win, and then he's done. He's done showing you what he's got, and it's quite amazing how he did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got about 3 people watching, too. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're having the KMR.
Yeah, thanks, everybody, on my end. Thanks, everybody, on my end.
Sir, so we're gonna move up a bit farther. So this is the period that I'm not as big into it here. So NASCAR 14 online race, Cookie Monster Race League, epic battle for first place at Las Vegas. You made a YouTube channel. This is the first video, and it was between you, Chamberlain, and I want to say rival Ant. I think it was for the lead at Las Vegas.
Destroyer.
Oh, Destroyer. Okay, Destroyer.
Yeah.
This has 150 views and standing. You see Dale out there, hashtag glad to be back. We're glad to have you back, Dale. We're all, I'd say it for everybody, we're all glad to have you back. But 150 views, man, and there's comments, from people in the comment section asking to join the league, man. So around the time where you decided to set up the YouTube channel, was that the time we saw the website? We saw even more of a controlled, the rules being involved in more rules that can really spice up the racing bigger going into it.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I hate it creating rules after stuff happened, negative stuff happened, because I don't want to be that person that's be like, you can't do that. Now I got to make a rule. But, obviously, the more organized something is, the more fun it is, So I had to look at and say, okay, well, is this practical? Is this still practical? Sometimes on those older games, they didn't repair your damage when you went in there.
Nope.
So so you had to pit again.
I'm the first one to
so I made a rule where you could pit twice, because we didn't have a lot of drivers out there for obvious reasons, and so we had to create rules for that. We had to create rules for lag, because unfortunately electronic racing is not always bulletproof, so
it's
you have lag.
Championships before many times.
Definitely. So there had to be rules for that. If someone lags out, then what? If someone can't see another person on a racetrack, then what? There had to be rules to put in place, and I think as racing evolved in the league, as more people came in and different personalities came in, well, there had to be rules for that too. When people clash, what do? Because if not, then you're just gonna have a giant wreck fest every week. So, rules had to be adapted, had to be put in place as the season went along. But my goal has always been, every season, I wanted to get to a point where I don't have to touch the rules, where the rules are so in place that nothing has to be done to them, or very, very minor adjustments. Because I think we all can agree, sometimes even in real life NASCAR, one of the biggest letdowns for a fan of the sport is when you have this gigantic rule change and you don't know what the heck is going on out there. So I wanted to get to a point where the rules don't have to be touched, and everyone knows it, they're familiar with it, and they can just focus on the racing. And then that's easier for me. Now I can focus on the racing instead of what rule I got to put in place now, So early in the day, the rules started to come in place. The website started to come in, so it made it so much easier for these guys to know where they are in points, so they don't have to bug me at 3 a.m. Where am I in points? And then I don't have to be the monster side of Cookie. I could just be Cookie,
Yeah.
that was good. It allowed for more exposure too. More people in the public could be touched and see, hey, this league is here and it's growing, and it might be something I want to be a part of.
Yeah, I hear you with that. That part of the series. So now we're going to get on to you're running 2 leagues at the same time. The birth of NASCAR 15, I should say. NASCAR 15 comes out. At first, when NASCAR 15 was out, were you like, all right, let's run the league on here? Or were you at first a bit skeptical, like, all right, well, new game here, let's see what the public reaction is, and then we'll decide on what's going on? Or what was really your thought process with 2 games now?
I'm always skeptical when a new game comes out because I'm all about letting people work out the bugs. And when we went to 15, 15 had already been out a while, actually. It didn't just hit the market. It had been out a while. And my theory is if it ain't broke, why fix it? Well, it started breaking because people were like, hey, let's go to 15. 15 is so much better. Well, I wanted proof of that. So we were on 14 for quite some time. We enjoyed 14. 14 was like, the car was just right. The setups were just right. The racing was just right. Even the lag bubble wasn't as bad to me, in my opinion. So then going to 15 or having this NASCAR 15 update, quote unquote. Yeah, okay. We went over. Yeah, exactly. With just 1 or 2 more glitches, same game, 2 more glitches. Okay, so yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at now, and so NASCAR 14 will always be my favorite game, but 15 was okay. I mean, I didn't really want to switch, but then I saw the need to grow. I knew that we couldn't stay on 14 indefinitely. So newer cars, maybe a different aero package that NASCAR instituted, which is going to change the racing. So at some point, as a league owner, okay, we're going to have to switch. So that was kind of the birth of that. Okay, we're switching over now. The game's been out a while. The bugs are quote unquote fixed. And so now we can go over here and test this out. And then it'll allow for more expansion because now you got these Cup guys that are over here. And then you got the 14, which is kind of like the X Series now, which is kind of like a glimpse into what the X Series would be now. So that's how that worked out.
So we got a question from the audience. Speedy is asking, where is he at in points right now?
Negative 100. All right. Now
Negative 100. All right. There you go, Speedy. Anybody watching, even on my own stream, Cookie, I don't know if you have your chat pulled up, but anybody, if you have any questions for Cookie, please feel free to put it out in the chat. We will ask that questions to get Cookie's input on it. But yeah, you get to that NASCAR 14 and 15, and you're starting. This is about the time when I came back. What were the drivers in the league then? Because obviously it's all been wrapped up. This was probably what we'd all say was the height of Xbox 360 KMR. Drive, like, literally no spots available in the qualifier for anybody to get in. Like, name some of the difficulties, I guess, that you had dealing with all these drivers wanting to run KMR and all that stuff.
The difficulty was finding a system that could accommodate everybody. That was the difficult part. And the reason why it was so difficult was because, while you have all these people coming in, you didn't want clowns. You don't want no clown to come in and mess everything up. That was number one. And then number two is like, because the game really wanted to. It really wanted to be that game, and you really wanted to have 16 people in. Realistically speaking, only about 10 people are going to be able to see each other, and out of that 10, only 5 are going to make it to the race. So you're trying to accommodate all of this. It made it tough. It made it really, really tough to accommodate everybody and to come up with a system that did it. And unfortunately, we have a system now. It's called the hot seat. But unfortunately, back then, that was not a thought. So we had individuals that would say, hey, yeah, we're going to run. They may run the qualifier and get in, and then we never see them again. They fall off the face of the earth. And so then it's like, okay, well, this person says he's going to run. And back then, it was like, if you get in and you're locked in, then we just run with 7 people. If it's 8 drivers and you miss, we just run with 7 people. It just kind of, if we couldn't get a sub. So that was kind of tough, but I think accommodation was the biggest, dealing with that and trying to keep new people in and keeping them engaged over a course of a season was difficult.
As well
you had some fall off.
As well as keep the older guys around to race with them newer people as well.
Exactly, because you had people like, well, I'm not gonna name call on anything negative. I will say that, but you had certain people
Yeah.
that all of a sudden, after
Hmm.
6 seasons, forget that you have to run a qualifier when you don't make it in. I mean,
Come
who
on.
does that? You know?
Come on,
So
man.
yeah,
Maybe
it's
on
one of those.
ESPN. So
Uh,
as you guys can see in the background right now, we are at Michigan, and back on NASCAR 15, if you remember, and oh, we got people going into the bushes, it looks like. Anyway, I was about to say
oh my
bushes.
gosh.
Oh, Michigan bushes, Cookie's favorite plants on any racetrack out
Oh
there.
gosh. The only plants I managed to hit.
The only
Oh
plant. He
gosh.
didn't hit grass, he hit the bushes.
And what made it so bad was that Michigan, for some reason, especially in late in runs when the
Oh
tires
my
wear,
lord, it
it
was
would
bad.
you had to run a high lane. You had to run a high
Oh
lane
yeah.
and you had to exit high to keep from whipping it around. So that's what would happen. I chased the car up the track, bounce it off the wall, and for some reason, every time I bounced it off the wall, it went straight for the bushes.
Well,
Straight for the. I'm glad somebody got some sense and went and cut them things down. That was a fire hazard out there. I'm just
oh,
come on, man.
now
Come
this
on,
is one
man.
of
And
them.
it's an
Now,
instant DNF.
oh,
It's
instant,
instant.
like
You don't get you
you
don't get
didn't
a
even get to
chance.
see the car roll. Like you didn't even get to
No.
see the thing roll on fire, just out of the thing.
Yeah, you
It was
smack it
amazing.
and that's it.
It was hilarious. And another thing with Michigan tracks like Michigan, you had to run high. You'd hit that wall, man. Broken rotors. Oh my
Yes.
lord.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
that was just
Yeah,
one
that
of
was.
the few things you have to worry about on those games.
And I mean, and it was so realistic though. If you damage your toe, it makes it hard to turn the car.
Oh,
The unrealistic thing
dump
was
truck.
that you go in 250,000 times to pit to get it fixed, and it didn't fix it.
So you had to, under pace laps, drive the car into the wall as hard as you can and not break your engine. Now, I can tell you from
Yes.
experience, breaking your engine was very easy doing that. So we
Yes.
got a question from Dale Jr. What was the first day of KMR? The very first day of KMR. What was that like?
Oh my gosh. Oh, the very first day of KMR. Wow. Well, I didn't have gray hair then, so let's see. We're talking.
Wasn't there?
We're talking middle school. No, we're talking high school. Maybe first year of high school. We're talking NASCAR, the game, inside line,
Uh,
Vegas.
mhm.
Las Vegas, NASCAR the game inside line at Las Vegas was the first KMR kind of league race. I remember that race because that was the race that I thought, being the not so pro driver that I was at the time, that the track bar, if you put the track bar, I believe,
Oh, yeah.
down, it would, or up, it would loosen the car, or down. I forgot which way, because track bars aren't a thing now for some reason. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, and I was going the wrong way, and I'd whipped that thing around on a straightaway. So I had to get some help with that. But once I figured that out, I was okay. Yeah, that was kind of the first race of KMR.
Yeah, so now
Yeah.
we're getting into this
Oh, no.
period, the end of the Xbox 360. A new console is actually, it's been out for a long time, but there never was any pressure to go to the new gen. Everybody felt really content back on NASCAR 14 and 15. Everything was rolling. But at some time, we knew it'd be true. A NASCAR game was going to come out on Xbox One. What was your thought process the first time you saw a NASCAR game coming to Xbox One? And obviously, Forza had an expansion that just released for NASCAR. What was your first thoughts on that new gen?
Okay, so the Forza was actually what I was introduced to first, because I loved Forza. Really loved Forza, and I got it, and that was before the expansion was even released. I didn't know they were going to release this expansion, but I played it. It was awesome. It was one of the first games I got with my Xbox One, so I loved it. And so I thought, man, if NASCAR was like this on the Xbox One, this is gonna be excellent. But I didn't ever think that. Yeah, But I didn't ever think that I was going to transition. Well, I knew it was coming, but I didn't know I was going to transition like I did. I was like, N15 is so great, and we got all these guys that want to run and everything. And so then the expansion pack came out, and I ran the expansion pack, which was probably where I failed. Maybe that was a bad thing for me to run the Forza expansion pack before NASCAR Heat, because I ran the Forza expansion pack and I ran at Daytona, and I almost cried because I was like, this is racing. This is what Daytona is supposed to feel like. And guess what? There's no lag bubble. Oh, buddy, we are in business.
Yay.
But there was only Daytona, Indianapolis, Homestead, Watkins Glen, Sonoma, and I'm like, no, you can't run a NASCAR schedule with just those races. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I knew that transition wasn't coming anytime soon. And then they released NASCAR Heat, and oh man, I thought, okay, it's gonna be just like Forza. We are in business. And then I
We'll get
downloaded
to our
it and
first
about
video
threw
of
up.
NASCAR Heat right now. So.
Yeah, and I about threw up. So that was like,
Oh.
nah, you playing? You playing right now? You playing? I didn't download the right one for $60.
No.
I didn't download the right one.
$60 for
That's
an
not the right
arcade
one.
game. An arcade game.
It's like,
Go-
I'm pretty sure I got I got PlayStation 1 with graphics better than this right now. Okay? Like,
I could go to the local casino and put a coin in the coin slot and it'd be better than this.
I was sitting there like, okay, there's no damage. So how do you simulate DNFs? Because DNFs are a part of racing, and I'll be doggone if I'm gonna turn my league into a wreck fest. It's not happening. So people are gonna have to be held accountable. So what's a DNF now that there's no damage? How do you create a NASCAR game with no damage? So I had to answer those questions in my mind. And I'm sitting there like, okay, there's no track bar. So what do you do now? How do you adjust
rubber
the
that
car?
you can add. Yeah.
No rubber. I mean, what do you do now? How did the draft was horrible?
Couldn't take left sides.
Could not take left sides. It's just it was too much. It was an adjustment. It was a big adjustment. But I also knew the inevitable. Okay, these guys are gonna go over to the new gen. Because it's a 360 console that's been out for 10 plus years. You got this new console fresh on the market, so they're gonna transition. And I needed to test the waters. I needed to see what the appeal was. So I ended up having a little test run, eight races, like I would run the league. I had a little test run, and we filled up the test run. There was 20 drivers for the test run. And if there was any plus to the new gen NASCAR games, it was that you can have more than 16 drivers and that everybody could be in the race and race. And that was a big appeal. So that's when I was introduced to drivers like Paintbrush and Dead Skeleton and Brady Calves and Forte, who came later, kind of tail end N15 early. And Snipe, and I met Sevenfold and Static Shell and Chevy Giant and Tactical Austin and Wool Tortoise and Hair Bear, who was able now to actually run and stay in the race as opposed to not being able to see anybody in N15. Yeah, and so that's when that transition started to happen, and that's when I realized that even though it wasn't the best, it was probably a move that I needed to make. I wish I'd have waited maybe 1 or 2 more seasons, but still, it was a move that I needed to make in transition to help the league, if the league was going to grow. Because if not, the league was going to die, because at some point, everybody's going to be on the new gen.
So the first season on the new gen, we ran a combination of NASCAR Heat Evolution and Forza 6. which brought new tracks such as Sebring. It brought Unopened Road America, all those tracks as well. The first season of KMR, how did it or KMR on New Gen? How did it run? Who won the championship, and who were the main contenders in the end on it?
All right, so yeah, so our first season with the new gen was actually really good. We averaged about the same average that we would have if we were on M15 at the end of the season. But those different road courses were good for two reasons. Number one, it gave us a break from NASCAR Heat Evolution, which I mean,
Oh,
we needed a break from NASCAR Heat Evolution because it just hurt your eyes. It needed work. So running that, being able to have the opportunity to run in the rain, I mean, was awesome. It's something I always feel NASCAR should do
oh,
instead of, making everybody wait till Monday, slap some rain tires on that thing and go, especially flat racetracks. But yeah, so it gave us that, and then the racing was good. You had to prepare for road courses that NASCAR the cars weren't set up for, so it made it a challenge. Who's your road course warriors and who wasn't, and everything. And that first season, the Ghost Train came in and he won in his rookie season, and he won that because we had already ran the test run. So this is the first official season. And yeah, Ghost Train came in and he couldn't win at an oval. Oh no, that wasn't happening. But I'm gonna tell you something. You get him out there on that road course,
ooh,
and he was gonna blow the
another
numbers off your
level,
car.
another
Yes,
level.
and so that
So,
was that was his first championship and the first introduction to these new guys coming in.
yes, sir. So around the second season on the new gen, you start to see guys such as Swift make their way in, who is racing in today, and showing improvement, obviously, from where he was from the start of the season to where he is now. You start to see this. Um, the competition level is starting to rise again. Paintbrush is getting faster. 4K is getting faster. You're getting faster, even. I'm getting faster. Speedy comes back. I mean, some guys are starting to rejoin the league. Those second and third season, Jab joined the league. The second and third season, did it kind of remind you of the start of KMR when it was all kind of like, man, competition levels rising again. The card count is rising more and more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When we first transitioned, honestly, that test run, I won the test run, but I'm not gonna count it as a championship because it was only 8 races. There wasn't a chase or nothing, anything like that. But when I got over there, it was you start to realize what you have. I went over there in that test run and I realized Speedy, Destroyer, Hammer, myself, Rat Rod, and Kevin Harvick, and all of these guys that ran it on 15. There's one thing they have in common, like 90% of them. They're grown with families. And so what that means is when things happen, they're mature. They're mature about it. Oh yeah, they're gonna get upset. They're human, but they know how to handle stuff. They're mature about stuff that's going on. And then you get over here with paintbrush, a young skeleton. They're still in school. You get over here with some of the other guys that was mentioned before, Speed B and others, and these guys are great racers, but they're young, and so you're racing with kids, and so they handle situations like kids, and so then you start getting a headache because now it makes officiating just a little bit harder because you have to be that mature guy all the time. I had to do more officiating than I did driving. So that made things tough, and I started to realize, wow, I need these guys back. So when Speedy came back, and that was a big help. Oh my goodness, was it a big help? And then Paintbrush matured. He's gotten older, and I've grown up with some of these guys, on the game, which is awesome. And they started to mature and handle things maturely, and so it makes racing more fun. So now I can focus more on racing and less on officiating. And having you come back, oh my goodness, was a great help. That helped a lot, and keeping order, keeping things going, and everything. So yeah, it felt like KMR had did a complete restart, and now things are starting to settle. Now the older guys, the mature guys are coming back, and they're ready to race. And now the competition level has gone up, partly because of their return, and also partly because of the adjustments that KMR has made to help precipitate that.
Yes, sir. So, we got another comedic question from Dale Jr. What was it
Oh
like being Dale
Lord.
Jr.'s teammate in the first season with him? And what was it like racing with Dale in the first season that he was in KMR?
Uh, what was it like running with Dale? Well, if I could remember what it was like way back then, I said I didn't have gray hair. Okay, I got gray hair now. I can't be remembering what happened way back then, man. I am not 15. I don't know.
I don't know.
If you can supply some footage, I'll be able to answer that question. I don't remember, but let me think. If I were to think hard, I do remember the one time when I hopped out of the 88 and you hopped in it and won that race. I'm not going to be mad about it. You did a good job, won that race. But running with Dale was like, it was fun. He was comedic. Everybody at that time had a little comedic part about it. I think that's how we dealt with stuff that we didn't like on the track. We just make a joke out of it. Spheric Rope probably didn't like the fact that he was in wrecks all the time and had brokety motors. But he made a joke out of it. That's still something that we talk about. Having brokety motors, brokety rotors. He made that up. And I'm pretty sure at the time he was mad about it, but he made it a joke. So it was fun to run with him, and have him on the racetrack just for that reason.
So Speedy's also got a question. Are you able to focus more on racing now that you decided to get assistance in officiating? When did you decide to add the assistances and what the assistance officials and why?
Very good question. Yes, it helps me a lot because number one, back on NASCAR 14, it was 8 drivers. If I can't handle 8 drivers, I'm not a good official. NASCAR 15 was 12 drivers. Again, if I can't handle 12 drivers, I'm not a good official. Also, the technology, the style of racing, who I'm dealing with was all different. I'm dealing with adults. They know how to handle their business. They're going to have fun. They don't want to be in there arguing and driving around the caution any more than I do. So we're going to handle business. When you're dealing with a larger group, 16, 20 when we first transitioned, and then 16, when you're dealing with all these changes, now the computer doesn't do DNF, simulate DNF. So now we have to simulate DNFs. That's something else that we have to keep an eye on. When you have younger ones that come in and they don't know how to handle situations where they may get roughed up a bit or whatever. And so now they're going back and forth. Yeah, it requires extra eyes. And so with the transition, when we were running 20 drivers, when we were running 16 drivers, that's when I started to realize that I needed help. And I couldn't focus on racing. A lot of times during the race, I can't focus on what I need to do down pit road because I'm worried about who broke the line or who came up on the racetrack exiting pit road 2 laps ago. So having that assistance, having extra eyes, which is something that Speedy always provided, even without being an assistant official. He just always did that. Hey, Kookie, I think this needs to be done or that needs to be done or whatever. And it helped me to stay cognizant of what was going on the racetrack. And I think that when I transitioned and he wasn't able to, and there wasn't really anybody but me, it was tough to do that. So I realized, hey, I need some help now, or else I'm gonna have a head full of white hair instead of just 1 or 2. So yeah. So probably when the initial transition, probably the first season of the transition, I realized, yeah, I might need some help.
So the more modern day now, we're gonna get into the more today. The competition level has gone up even more. You got Nightfall, you got Zesty, you got Amari, you got Swiftfast, you got myself, you got Speedy, you got Slothy, you got Zach, you got all these different drivers. You decided now that you're going to bring the X Series and the Truck Series in, which is in effect today in its second season, Xfinity in its third. What was your thought process on bringing in a new series, a new Xfinity and new Truck Series?
Well, this was just more of an opportunity for exposure to get people to run and have fun with KMR. Obviously, again, you don't want to bring in clowns. You don't want the race to. You don't want the competition to drop off, and that's what I noticed was happening. The competition would drop off at a certain point. So your top 7 guys would be right there together, really competitive on the racetrack, and then position 8 through 16 would just drop off. You're lapping them, you can't get the lap back, and so because they're getting blown out in points, they don't really want to show up, and so then after a while, at the end of the season, you only have 7 guys. So I just kind of wanted to use the trucks and the X Series as an opportunity for people to have some exposure, and so that we can see, okay, who's going to be competitive if they come up here in the Cup. Because my goal right now is to get the league up to 40 drivers, if possible, if that's even possible. So in order to do that, you can't just bring everybody up. You have to know who's going to be competitive, who's not, who's going to show up to the races, who's not. And so with that, I wanted to use those series to do that. And it's just a part of KMR's growth, which I'm so happy about. So yeah, bringing the rookies in, the new people that are interested, and letting them run the truck series and letting them move up, have the opportunity to move up. And then when they move up, they can say, hey, you know what? This league is awesome. Let me invite my friend. He can move up. He can race with me. Next thing you know, it's 36 drivers in the Cup Series, because everyone has proven themselves and everyone's moved up. And then all of a sudden, it just puts more competition in the Cup Series and makes that more fun for us.
Yes, sir. So now we're gonna look ahead in the past seasons. Speedy's he'd like to thank you for allowing him to run the trucks at next series, since you had the personal stuff last season going on, and he's thanking you for trusting him to be your assistant. Speedy, I think everybody in the league would appreciate that you're here and do what you do for the league. I'm not gonna lie there. But now we look ahead. You have a season that prevented you last season, and you had personal issues. Now you look ahead to the Daytona 500 in 2 weeks. What is your goal? Now we're back on Heat 4 only. What is your goal for the upcoming season?
The goal is to do what we do, and to try to win the championship. There's only been, I think, 1, maybe 2 seasons where I've ever not been in contention, So last season, obviously, I didn't make the Final Four. And then a couple seasons before that, I didn't make the Final Four. Outside of that, I've always been in championship contention. And so we got to get back to that. We erase what happened last season, because we know that, honestly, if we'd had the opportunity, we could have been in contention again. But one thing that I think holds us back is consistency on the racetrack. We make mistakes late in the race that cost us wins or cost us good finishes, which makes a difference when you get down there in the chase and late in the run in the playoffs. So just being there and trying to run as consistent and smooth as possible, always having our eyes on the big picture, trying to win the championship, man.
Heck yeah, man. We've talked about you in the last, we've been talking throughout the week. Do you believe that this season is your best chance to go get the 8th championship in your career? Why or why not?
It better be. I better go get it, because everybody's coming back, and if everybody everybody that has come back except for one has a championship. So you get more people like that coming in. If we don't make improvements and if we don't get it while the iron's hot, we may not get another one. It's just that simple. We may get to a point where we're not the top, I feel the top three in the top discussion for the top 3 drivers in KMR. We might be down in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, because drivers have come in that are better than KMR's top drivers, and that would be a problem. So the iron's hot, I think, with this kind of transition and certain drivers having to get used to the cars and get used to running again. So we better go get it now if we're going to get another championship.
Heck yeah, man. Well, this has been an amazing hour. You're looking back, reflecting on KMR. Before we end this, man, anything else you got to say about the future, the past, the present, whatever's going on?
Well, man, I just want to thank again. I just want to thank everybody in the modern era now. Everybody that has made KMR what it is up to this point. Ghost Train, Paintbrush, Speedy, yourself, um, this Speed B, Nightfall, Ghost. I already say Ghost Train, but I say Ghost Train again. Um, Swift. It's just too many names to recount, man. It's too many names and not enough time. But I just want to thank everyone who has ran, even those that are not allowed to run anymore. I want to thank you guys too because you helped the league as well, whether you know it or not. You helped the league make transitions and adapt some rule changes so that the league can continue to improve. Thank you for continuing to abide by the rules. Some rules you may not understand, some rules you may not like, but you follow them anyway, and it makes the league run smooth. It makes everything go smoothly, and it helps everybody have fun. So thank you very much, and just keep doing it.
Cook, this has been awesome, and just to send it off, Slothy's gonna kill me if I don't say this. Apparently, he's ready this season.
Okay.
Slothy, get out of here. Anyway, man, this has been incredibly fun. To go back throughout the years, throughout the seasons with you, man. Season 40. Here's to another 40 seasons.
Maybe, man. What's the season? What do you think the league's gonna look like in 40? Oh my gosh! Do you know how old I'm gonna be in 40?
How many
I'm gonna
gray
be in my
hairs you're gonna
40s.
have in 40 seasons?
I probably won't have hair.
Oh, yeah, I'll do it. Anyway, man, this has been awesome. Everybody that's listening to this on the YouTube side, make sure you head over to Twitch Monster 27 if you'd like to see the replay of it on the Twitch channel. In a little while, Cookie, Speedy, and Speed, we are going to be getting up together for the KMR Speed Report for the upcoming season. Make sure you guys tune in there, Cookie. This has been awesome. It's been fun to have it. We're going to sign off here.
All right, but
That was fun. Whew.
let me mute mine first.
So, guys.